Alrighty.
All right, we are officially recording and we're going to now let the people in. Um, Here they come. Give them a second to run in the room. I think Stephanie made it in first. I'm not sure, but we welcome all of you who are coming and welcome people who are watching this in the future. Because I know many people will be. It's Friday. It's the holidays. People are going to be like, I'm just going to wait and watch this while I'm drinking my cocoa or whatever, wrapping some presents. So, all right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, Let me go ahead and just share a couple of announcements because you didn't actually come to see me, and I'm okay with that because we have something much more fun and interesting. So here we go. Let's, and of course, Zoom's going to like be cranky with me now. There we go. Sorry. It's the magic of live television. There's always something. A button goes missing or moving or something, and there we go. But welcome to the Friday webinar series. I'm Valerie here at USDLA, and I'm so excited to get to welcome my friend Alex here today. And I'm going to turn it over to her in just 1 second to talk about the digital learning outlook for 2026. Maybe she can explain to me how it got to be 2026 because I just don't know how that happened. But anyway, before that, just want to remind you that this is being recorded today, as are many, actually, most of our things are recorded, and many of them go over to our YouTube channel. So you can go and watch them. You can go over to usdla.tv and subscribe, click the buttons, like, comment, share, all those things. There's a ton of great content over there. And this time of year, hey, you might have a little extra time. I don't know, during the holidays, you could go and like just binge watch, just enjoy yourself. There's tons of great stuff up there, and you'll be all set with new ideas and content for the new year. We are a membership association, however, and we do thrive off of member participation and support. So some of our content is available only in the membership portal. So if you are not already a member, we encourage you to consider becoming a member. And again, because we want everybody to binge watch the content, there is actually a 60-day free trial membership. So even if you're not quite ready, or maybe you have to wait till the new year to get your budget, or whatever the reason is, you can go ahead and join with that trial membership today and get into all of that amazing content. Some of the content we just put up recently was some of the content from National Distance Learning Week. Some of it is also over, as I said, at usdla.tv. And Alex is going to tell you a little bit more in a minute, but you'll have more amazing content coming right after the first of the year because she is hosting Public Policy Week. And I've seen the list. She's got some amazing speakers coming in, and you're not going to want to miss that, especially those of you who are here today, because I know that's something you're already interested in. So, final thing I want to have you save the date for is next June, the 22nd through the 25th, is the USDLA National Conference. This year we're going to be in Cleveland because Cleveland rocks and so does distance education. So they go great together. We hope you can join us there. There's more details on the website, and there's some big announcements coming. We're locking in some new speakers that you haven't seen before. We have some return speakers backed by popular demand. So go check out the website. It's going to have more information coming soon, but we're going to have a number of great workshops, keynotes, and some new things that you haven't seen before, some innovative networking opportunities and some test kitchen type things and demos. So come and learn more about that. And also, if you can't attend live in Cleveland, there is also a virtual option. You'll have 2 days of full programming the week prior to the event. So that's the 17th and 18th will be the virtual days. And then you'll still get access as virtual attendees to a number of the things that are happening on site in our main ballroom area. So again, more details on the website. If you want to submit a proposal for speaking or an award, those deadlines did get bumped just a little bit, so you still have time for the speakers. New deadline is the end of the year. Again, go to the website. It tells you all the categories and what all you would need to know to complete that registration or that submission form. And then also you have until January, that's the word, January 15th to complete your award submissions. And if you have any questions, there's information on there. Wendy Pate handles the awards, and she would love to answer any of your questions about that. And finally, Members support the association, as do our great sponsors, partners, and exhibitors. And so I always want to say thank you to them. On this slide, you see our platinum, gold, and silver sponsors. If you work with any of these people, please reach out to them. I'm sure they have big plans for the coming year, and they can tell you what's coming down the pipeline. Special shout out to Verizon. They're one of our long-term supporters. And Alex, who also works on a newsletter, she did a great piece recently in the newsletter about their Skills Forward program, where they're trying to get those very necessary skills and certification out to at least 50,000 US based people. And so please go check that out. That's a wonderful opportunity. And again, thank you to all of our other amazing sponsors. And finally, we do have our bronze sponsors, exhibitors, and partners. They are equally important to us. Many of them will be at the conference. It's a great opportunity to come and sit down with them and really learn about the products. And they love to hear what you want to see and how they can best help you, because they run the gamut, hardware, software, services, pretty much anything and everything you would need to run a distance education program. You'll also at the conference, they're not listed specifically here, but at the conference, you'd also get a chance to meet with our various state chapter and regional chapter leaders. So you not only can be a part of USDLA's family, but you can be part of those little sub families, those other little groups along the way. So with that, I am going to stop telling you all of the advertising. I feel like the infomercial at the beginning of the show. And I'm going to now turn it over to Alex.
Hello. Well, thanks, Valerie. I'm going to share my screen here and hopefully it'll work seamlessly like it did earlier. Valerie, give me a thumbs up if the okay, good. So, welcome all to this roundup and outlook session on digital learning and education policy. I'm Alexandra Salas. I've been a part of USDLA for many years, and I'm also the founder of one of USDLA's state chapters, Delmarva Digital Learning Association. So, the reason for doing this session is to just kind of rally and talk about some of the policy issues that are bubbling up and are critical in our discussion about modernizing education and student success, but also to let you know about our upcoming Public Policy Week in January, where we will have an opportunity to further those conversations. So recent legislative forecasts and government reports highlight a nationwide push to modernize our public education system while addressing the technological and fiscal challenges. As you can see by the slide, money is central to a lot that is happening. State boards and lawmakers are prioritizing financial literacy, with 41 states now requiring personal finance instruction to improve students' long-term economic stability. Additionally, on the public policy front, their officials are working to strengthen the educator pipeline by creating alternative pathways for school leaders and providing specialized training in literacy and math. Also, on the federal level, the U.S. Department of Education is decentralizing operations by partnering with other agencies to streamline programs and return more control to the states. Meanwhile, policymakers are grappling with the impact of AI and trying to seek a balance between fostering innovation and protecting student privacy. Collectively, all of these initiatives aim to ensure that graduates are college ready and career ready in this digital, landscape. So together, by taking time to immerse ourselves in understanding the complexity of, public policy, we are here, right? So at this time, we're just going to take some time to take a glance at these issues just a little closer. So by 2026, just next year, in a couple of weeks, digital learning is expected to be more personalized, right? And we've seen that coming, leveraging AI, adaptive technologies, so that we can tailor content to student needs. There will be more remote remote and hybrid classrooms in the mainstream, offering flexible access and interactive experiences for students. EdTech investment is going to continue to drive innovative platforms and integrating VR and AR so that students have immersive learning environments. Also, as I mentioned earlier, governments are taking steps to make digital learning more accessible, not just in the schools, but across education, business, and even healthcare. The goal is to close gaps in access to make sure that students can learn, people can learn, train, and upskill wherever they are, and no matter, where they are. At the same time, and this is why public policy is critical, there's new rules and standards to help ensure that technology is also used well. The guidelines focus on quality, security, effectiveness, so digital tools actually support learning instead of creating new challenges. But to make this possible, there's funding, right? Funding programs, public-private partnerships are playing an increasing role. And working together, public and private sectors can test new ideas, scale works, build digital learning systems that are sustainable, inclusive, and ready for the future. But funding is the operative word. And public policy is their strides towards facilitating funding, streamlining funding so that these initiatives are possible and continuity of these initiatives are possible. So understanding where they are, what they are, is key in our work as educators. Um, the 2025-2026 period has marked a critical inflection point for shaping education policies. And policy is shaping who gets access, what quality looks like, and who bears the responsibility. Digital learning has evolved into essential infrastructure. It drives key policy decisions, and these choices impact access by bridging educational gaps, promoting equity for all learners, fostering innovation, and in teaching methods as well. And furthermore, they determine institutional sustainability. How education policy works is contingent on needs assessment, coordination, and collaboration. As you know, policy is shaped by federal legislation and agencies that set overarching standards and regulations. State level implementation then tailors these policies to local needs. Accreditation and then regulatory bodies ensure compliance and quality. And then you have public-private partnerships that foster innovation, collaboration, and drive effective and sustainable policy solutions across sectors. And these sectors are K through 12, higher ed, workforce, and lifelong learning. So what is the shift regarding policies? The pandemic era policy flexibility is now shifting to more permanent regulations as temporary waivers expire. There's growing pressure for increased accountability as these changes take effect. And simultaneously, digital learning is being normalized in education policy, reshaping expectations for schools and institutions to integrate technology in long-term planning. If you can remember, it's not that long ago, during the pandemic, schools and colleges were given a great deal of flexibility, and temporary policy waivers allowed institutions to move more quickly, try new approaches. They had resources. They were learning to keep going during this unprecedented disruption. And the policies were designed to help the institutions respond in an emergency, but not to last forever. So now that that period of flexibility is coming to an end and temporary waivers are expiring, many of these emergency measures are being replaced with permanent regulations. With that shift comes increasing expectations for accountability. So schools and institutions are being asked to clearly demonstrate quality, effectiveness, and responsible use of resources as new rules take hold. At the same time, digital learning is no longer viewed as a temporary solution. Um, what began as an emergency response has now become normal and expected part of education policy. Online and hybrid learning are now embedded, in how schools plan programs, deliver instruction, and support students. So this means that institutions no longer can treat digital learning as optional or short term. And as you can see, it's trending that they are not. They're looking for ways to continue to move digital learning forward within their capacities. So technologies you can see is now more intentionally integrated in long-term planning alongside staffing and budgeting and infrastructure, accessibility and student support. So all of these policy shifts signal a new phase for education. The focus, as I mentioned, is moving away from this emergency response towards more sustainability and accountable systems. And that's what we are seeing in this digital learning space. Broadband. Broadband is very interwoven into advancing digital learning. So broadband and connectivity remain essential for digital inclusion. The BEAD program, which is the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, is funded by the IIJA. That's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And the first slide that you saw there was that big number, 42 billion federal, that was a 42 billion federal grant program that aims to connect every American to high-speed internet by funding partnerships and building infrastructure. So this law, this Job Act, was passed in 2021, and it authorized about 1 trillion, excuse me, for upgrading America's physical infrastructure, not just roads and bridges, but expanding the power grid, aiming to create jobs, boost the economy, and also expand digital literacy and training and modernize critical services over the next several years. So key trends include the continuation and expansion of BEAD and state broadband plans that prioritize expanding access in rural areas and supporting tribal communities. The policy focus is also shifting towards affordability, ensuring that high-speed internet is not only available, but financially accessible to underserved populations. So in other words, digital learning planning must align with state broadband maps, and institutions need to understand the funding timelines. Next, we have life cycle planning. So institutions, as I mentioned, have shifted from this emergency framework towards more comprehensive life cycle planning and focusing on sustainability. So modern policies are also looking in that direction. And now expect regular device refresh cycles, strong cybersecurity readiness, and interoperability across systems, right? So over the last few years, schools and colleges moved quickly to get devices into student hands. Schools were, providing, MacBooks or Chromebooks, just providing devices so students are connected. And that emergency response obviously was necessary, but it also revealed something really important, that access alone isn't enough. So today's institutions are shifting their focus from short-term solutions to long-term planning. So instead of simply distributing devices when a crisis hits, schools are now thinking more carefully about the full life of the technology, how devices are purchased, how they're maintained, updated, reused, and eventually replaced. So this kind of planning ensures that technology remains reliable and useful over time. So as you can see, sustainability is now a central part of the policy conversation. And schools are being asked to make technology choices that are financially responsible and also environmentally mindful. So planning these regular device refresh cycles helps to avoid surprise costs. It also reduces waste and ensures that technology investments align with the long-term educational goals, which is why it's important. Because those long-term educational goals they integrate, the whole concept of, student outcomes and student success. So keeping the devices up to date is also an equity issue. And when students or educators rely on outdated technology, it can really create new barriers to learning and teaching. So regular updates help ensure that everyone has access to tools that actually work, supporting fairness and participation and success. At the same time, protecting data and online safety has become a growing personal, a growing issue and a priority. As digital learning has expanded, institutions have prepared to safeguard personal information, strengthen cybersecurity from spam, and scam attacks, a responsive and respond to potential threats. Secure systems are essential to maintaining trust in digital education. So this is why this is so important. Another key shift is for the push in technology that works together. So that interoperability. Policies increasingly emphasize interoperability, making sure that devices, learning platforms, digital tools connect smoothly rather than operating in silos. Uh, when systems work together, educators then can focus more on teaching and learning and less on troubleshooting. Altogether, these conversations have moved beyond simply providing access. The goal now is readiness, building digital systems that are secure, sustainable, and resilient enough to support learners today and tomorrow, right? So that this is what we're looking at for 2026. So a key consideration, a question that comes up is, um, are your technology plans structured and prepared to meet the grant requirements and the long-term institutional goals of your institution? And that's a question that you should ponder. So speaking of being, future ready, grant ready, um, readiness is key. Education institutions have to think about this regularly and, how to become grant ready by developing strong organizational capacity. And that means including clear governance and financial management systems, preparing compelling grant proposals, having measurable outcomes, and detailed budgets are essential. Building relationships with funders as well as aligning projects with grantor priorities also increases the likelihood of successful funding. So this is all part of the work, part of the conversation, and part of the system of being policy aware. AI, it's going to be a part of our vernacular for many years to come. So AI in education prompts policy focus on ethics and transparency, and also addressing algorithmic bias. Academic integrity and workforce readiness are also key considerations for future learning environments. And notably, now states are now issuing AI guidance for schools, and institutions are increasingly required to define acceptable AI use, reflecting rapid changes in regulation and practice. AI use policies encourage educators and designers to clearly define expectations for learners, fostering responsible integration rather than outright bans. So that is the conundrum, right? That is where we are at. Um, Trying to figure out what is the balance, and how to manage it, and also how to encourage it. Faculty are expected to develop new skills for guiding effective AI use, and the key takeaway is that policy is driving education towards AI literacy, empowering learners and teachers to engage ethically with emerging technologies. So the jury's not out. It's just an ongoing conversation of creating policies that are agile and that meet the current needs of market demands and of education. Digital literacy, um, as you may be aware, also encompasses media, data, AI literacy, alongside civic digital engagement. States are embedding digital literacy in education standards for K through 12 and higher ed, and also workforce development. The cross-sector relevance ensures continuity of essential digital skills, supporting lifelong learning, and also informed participation in a technology-driven society. In this vein, similarly, financial literacy also continues to be a priority. In a 2025 assessment, only 49% of adults could demonstrate financial literacy. So this is not just an abstract statistic. It translates into severe and measurable hardship. With 41 states now committed to financial education, the challenge is no longer about starting the race, but ensuring that every student is taught by a well-prepared teacher and is equipped to actually, win it. And the question becomes, how do we shift our focus from policy adoption to equitable impact? And when we examine digital literacy and financial literacy and all the literacies that we could discuss, it really comes down to this balance of policy adoption and equitable impact. Institutions face increasing policy pressures, including FERPA, modernization debates, evolving state and student data privacy laws, um, and heightened vendor accountability. So schools rigorously vet vendors. They ensure that the LMS is compliant, and so are the ed tech contracts that they have, and also provide staff training on data protection. So these measures help safeguard student information and meet regulatory obligations. And this is something that will be ongoing in 2026. So enforcement from the Department of Justice and the Office for Civil Rights is increasingly making accessibility something that must be built in from the start, not added later as a fix. So it now affects everything from course content and learning platforms to everyday communications. As a result, accessibility is no longer optional or secondary. It has become a basic measure of quality, shaping how programs are designed, delivered, and reviewed. So making accessibility a core design expectation rather than a remedial task is is pivotal. It impacts, as I mentioned, course content, platforms, communications, and it requires proactive integration. So the shift means accessibility is now a baseline. It's a quality indicator, and it shapes how programs are developed, delivered, and evaluated moving forward and in the future. Quality assurance and accountability policies emphasize online program quality through evidence-based design. So regular review cycles ensure student outcomes are consistently evaluated and improved. Transparency is prioritized while robust learner support structures are implemented to meet diverse student demands. So this is all reflecting a growing focus on measurable and high quality educational experiences for students. NC-SARA, state authorization matters. It remains a crucial aspect for facilitating cross-state learning and ensuring compliance with state authorization regulations. As workforce programs expand, they face greater impact and must navigate evolving policy requirements. So institutions should remember that scaling programs increases complexity, making robust compliance strategies essential for continued success. So we will be hearing more about NC-SARA and also a feature on during our Public Policy Week. Short-term credentials and micro-credentials are also rapidly expanding into 2026 and access to to increase access to education. These enable learners to quickly learn and acquire in-demand skills. Employer-aligned learning also ensures that training matches workforce needs, while skills-based hiring frameworks prioritize competencies over formal degrees. The key policy change here is assuring quality while scaling speed and access. So requiring robust standards and effective program regulation. Two agreements with the Department of Labor are signaling a major effort to integrate education and workforce development systems. First, we have the Elementary and Secondary Education Partnership, and this is the strategic goal of this partnership is to align K through 12 education programs more closely with post-secondary and workforce pathways, whereby creating a clearer journey for students from early education to their careers. The Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez Dreamer, noted the partnership will ensure our K through 12 and post-secondary education programs prepare students for today and for tomorrow's workforce demands. Under this agreement, DOL will manage grant competitions and provide technical assistance for a wide range of programs under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, as amended and currently administered by the Education Department's Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. The Education Department will still retain oversight of all its statutory responsibilities. The second partnership I'm going to discuss is the Post-Secondary Education Partnership. And that DOL's role is to administer most post-secondary education grant programs authorized under the Higher Education Act. The rationale of this is to directly connect higher ed funding with national workforce needs, to help students obtain credentials and career training that lead to employment and economic contributions. DOL also expects to manage grant funds and provide technical assistance, integrating these programs with existing suite of workforce development initiatives. Understanding the practical consequences of these administrative shifts is critical for state agencies, local school districts, universities, and other grantees that rely on federal funding. This new structure redefines federal roles and alters the flow of communication and funds. So it's important to stay informed and updated to understand what this means for you. In addition, institutions must ensure program design aligns with policy compliance, adhering to regulations and standards. Flexibility and accessibility are essential to meet diverse learner needs and enable adaptability. Data reporting and workforce relevance must also be prioritized to demonstrate impact and prepare students for evolving job markets, making design an integral policy concern. Policy alignment, as we can see, is for key funding eligibility, making grant readiness dependent on strong policy literacy. Institutions should develop clear digital learning strategies with measurable outcomes to demonstrate impact. Additionally, fostering cross-functional coordination ensures that institutional strategy is holistic and aligns with funding requirements. In other words, grant readiness is policy literacy, or policy literacy enables grant readiness. So the aspect of policy dissonance, when policies fall out of sync, oversight, or failing to engage with policy can result in missed funding opportunities. It can limit access to crucial resources, and compliance gaps could rise, increasing legal or regulatory issues. Reactive decision-making replaces strategic planning, and institutional losses, and the institution loses its voice in shaping relevant policy outcomes and advocacy efforts when there is this disconnect. So it becomes clear how important it is to stay up to date. So you should ask yourself, how are you staying up to date? How are you keeping informed of this labyrinth of issues that can impact your day-to-day? So the USDLA's Public Policy Week offers direct access to policy experts, allowing participants to engage and learn from leaders in the field. By providing cross-sector perspectives, it fosters a comprehensive understanding of current issues, and attendees gain practical interpretation of policy changes and opportunities to actively shape the public policy conversation. It's an opportunity to ask questions and also share what might be impacting your particular region and your particular place of employment. So, attending Public Policy Week sessions to stay informed and connected with key initiatives is an objective. Join public policy discussions to contribute your voice and learn from peers nationwide. Engage at the state chapter level and bring valuable policy conversations back to your institution for greater impact and collaboration and connection. So, as we have reviewed, policy plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of education, the future of digital learning. Active engagement is essential for institutions as passive participation is no longer viable. Those who understand and anticipate policy trends will drive innovation rather than simply follow it. So, join us in January for USDLA's Public Policy Week. Thank you. So on this next slide, I have a Slido so that you can either scan your phones so that you can participate. And I'll give you a moment to do that. But in the meantime, I will share with you what the question is. There will be a list of which policy areas most impact your work right now. All right, and because we are a small group, I invite you to unmute your mics, turn your cameras on if you feel comfortable, and share. Love to hear from you, and always will love to see you at our during our Public Policy Week, and after that at the national conference. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. And these are the questions that you see here. So these are the options. Which policy area most impacts your work right now? And so is it broadband access and connectivity, uh, ethics and academic integrity, data privacy, quality assurance? Take your time and you can answer the questions. I see the one that came up first is AI. Okay. Yeah. So I would say, so I'm going to stop my share, but as you can see, and so I'm open to conversations, questions. As you can see, broadband access, accessibility, and digital literacy are they're all tied. And then AI is really concerning. Oh, okay, now things are shifting a little bit. Okay, so accessibility, inclusion, universal design. Yeah, all these issues are important, and depending on where you are, your region, your corner of the country, the resources that you have, your how well your institutions are funded, um, it it will make a difference in terms of how your schools, your institutions can navigate through the trends and the challenges that are on the forefront. So it's important to stay connected and ask questions, stay involved, and provide comment on the issues as you see them. So I just want to thank you for your time and your attention. And I'm going to stop my share here. Uh,
I'm going to interpret the fact that accessibility came in second, that everybody has met the April ADA compliance deadline and everybody's ready, and that's a good thing. Or you're still thinking about it at least. Either way, I think that's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of deadlines.
Yeah. No, I'm just always interested to see that because, as you did with public policy, we plan all of the webinars around the topics that are of most interest to people. So we did have some conversations at NDLW about the AI ethics, since that whole week was very heavily AI, based on slides like yours today, where everybody's like, yes, we want to talk about that. But yeah, so this is good to know that we're on the right track in serving them. We're we're keeping up with what people need to know. But if you have questions that you would like to, or a topic maybe that wasn't on the list, or something that you are concerned about or thinking about, or questions you have, please you can put them in the chat, or as Alex invited, you're a small friendly group. I can tell. You can go ahead and unmute yourselves and just verbalize your question if you would like, um, because that way I know some of these. Maybe Alex, do you want to tell them a little bit about some of the speakers you have coming during Policy Week so that they have even a better understanding of
Sure.
what all I know you mentioned, and I know we have Cheryl coming in to talk about the state authorization things.
Hmm.
I'm sure you have a bunch. I don't have it all memorized yet. I'm sure you have a much better. So if you just want to give people kind of some of the general topics, that way they can
Sure.
also go back and tell their colleagues, hey, you got to go check this out because
Absolutely.
it's
So,
coming.
day one, we will have our topic is policy and regulation of AI use in teaching, learning, and assessment. So you will hear more on that topic. So we have Rob Robinson from the Hardy Group, and again, he's just going to hone in on what the conversations are about how the recommendations for AI use, what guidelines exist, what the future may look like.
Mhm.
But again, these are we don't know. We really don't know what will be happening. And then following that, we're going to have a session from it's called More Than Sarah, the out-of-state activity compliance rules for institutions that all institutions should care about, even California, which is not a Nancy Sarah um, participant. So we'll learn more about you know how the assumptions that institutions might make about the participation in Sarah, and just learn more about what may what approaches will be helpful for 2026, and just making those connections with the state to state authorization, and some of those challenges. The idea is to have a forward-looking discussion to see different state shifts about the anticipated regulatory changes. And then on day two, there will be a session on A opportunities for language teaching and learning. So more on AI. I mean, there's so many different uses for AI. And then there will be a session on futures literacy as a catalyst for education policy innovation. Looking at the future, not so much as a forecast, but from the point of, from the realism where we stand, and envisioning what different ways that we can navigate the uncertainty of tomorrow. And then on day three, there will be a special presentation by Rick Rendon of the Rendon Group. And he will be sharing stories about navigating policy and building partnerships. He has a very elaborate, history in strategic communication and providing communications counsel to governments and corporations. So he just
Mhm.
brings a lot of information on a variety of issues that will definitely serve us as members of the audience. And then we will have a session from the Third Way. Ben Cecil, he's the Deputy Director of the Higher Education Policy at the Third Way, and he's going to talk about he's going to provide the DC update, right, of what is happening with the Pell Grant, and just things of that nature. So he's going to discuss more the different perceptions about higher ed system today. And then on day four, on Friday, we're going to have a panel presentation by different members of our state chapters from Ohio, Delaware, Texas, and a few other states, Missouri as well, and Florida. So we're really looking forward to that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think people are going to be very interested in the Friday, particularly as things get pushed from the Department of Ed out to the states, those state chapters. You all are going to be super important to many of the people in the community because you're going to be closer to the action. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's a question in the chat. I apologize. I don't know if it's Tara or Tara. Don't like to mispronounce people's names. But she was asking if you have, or we, but I'll say you, do we have a link tree or some other resource that would be a good place to find resources on education policy that affect us all, including higher ed? And what are your go-to resources? So I know we always gather up all resources that get shared during Public Policy Week. I know we will be doing that, and we'll be distributing that to anybody who registers. We always have a little after after party package, I guess. I don't know what we want to call it, that we go through. Because quite often in the presentations, what happens is not just the presenters provide resources, but a lot of these topics, the people in the sessions are like, oh, I found a really good resource. So we actually bundle everything up so you get not just what the speakers provided, but you get to learn from one another, which I always think is very nice. So I can promise that that will be happening. But Alex, if you want to add any other comments about how they should go about curating their place to
Yeah,
go and find good stuff.
there's so much, right? But I would say the DOE is a definite go-to. And then I like to go to, and I put it in here, the this particular site is the national they do legislative trends and priorities. It's the National Conference of State Legislatures. And so I like to look there as well. And then I'm always just doing different searches. I look at different reports that have been put together, so that I'm always curating new sources because I just sometimes feel that different sources get stale, and there's a lot of media out there, so that so the go-tos, the Chronicle, Inside Higher Ed. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful publications, and they're doing a lot of the work for us. But when I want to do particular research and just kind of see, okay, how are all the states doing, and if I want to drill down, I like to go to some of the state organizations, like that one that I provided, the state legislatures, because then I can kind of filter through and just get a bird's eye view of what, a 30,000 mile view of what is happening and how it might be impacting, different areas of education. So hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And I know you've also been putting, we've had some blog posts that had some curated content along the way. So it may not be, one specific page, but that's another good spot. I know you and others have been sharing some good resources there in the USDLA blog and in the newsletters and things. So,
Mhm.
but it's a great suggestion. Maybe who knows? Maybe we'll have a little spot on the policy page at some point where we can just we do have a number of resources on the USDLA website, but we could make them a little more visible, perhaps.
Yep, yep. We can certainly do that. Yes. Any other questions? Or does anyone want to share pre-public policy?
Yeah, yeah. Or just what your area, which of the areas that Alex touched on today, are there certain areas that you feel will most impact you, or that you're most interested in? Because again, we can whether we may not be able to address it in great detail today, but it gives us great information to know how to better serve you. So when you come back for a future event, we can make sure that it's most relevant to you. I know based on some of her topics, we did bring in people earlier this year around accessibility. For those of you who voted for that one, we had a really wonderful session from one of our other state chapters, um, on regular substantive interaction. That one was very active in the chat. People were very concerned about doing it right. Um, so yeah, if there's any specific topics, always just let us know. And if you don't think of it today, but you think of it another day, we love to hear from people. So you can always reach out after the fact and let us know.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you for taking the time to join and always interested in your feedback and your ideas and your comments. So thank you.
Thank you so much.